The Trump White House getting a new look. The administration is overseeing the remodeling of the East Wing, making way for a brand new ballroom that won't cost taxpayers a dime. While many seem to think that the ballroom is a terrific idea, the sight of the demolition crew has some Democrats seething with rage. But at the end of the day, those Democrats who are upset with the new ballroom will eventually be able to use it. They just need over 270 votes. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Molly Hemingway, Fox News contributor, and Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary and Fox News contributor. Well, the walls are in construction. They're coming down. Trump is set on giving parts of the White House a more modernized look as the East Wing is currently undergoing the demolition process. Some of Trump's biggest critics call this a terrible idea, like Hillary Clinton, who lost to Trump in 2016, and doesn't seem to think that it's his house. Governor Newsom compares the White House remodeling to ripping apart the Constitution, and Elizabeth Warren is complaining over the sound of bulldozers demolishing the East Wing. Karine Jean-Pierre and the lovely ladies of The View would agree. They seem to think the idea is both tacky and gaudy.
The People's House is basically being sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
It is corruption at its core. And I heard someone say this when I was backstage. It could not be, there's no greater metaphor right now than what's happening right now in this country than watching Donald Trump take a wrecking ball to the White House.
Yeah. That is not your building. You don't own that.
This is a metaphor for what's going on in our country. He is tearing down the house. He is tearing down the people's house. He's an annihilist. And I think, you know, he does seem to think that it's his house, that he is a king. He thinks he's going to be in that ballroom.
Somebody who is building something like this
I'm going to be alive in some of these years.
Does not intend to get out of office.
Amazing. Other liberal media members like Joe Scarborough say Trump's White House remodeling is, quote, grotesque.
It's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House and take a wrecking ball to an existing structure so historic. That is what's happening. It's grotesque.
It's painful. I mean, this is historic structure.
It's history being torn to shreds.
Mika says she's in pain there. Okay. Well, why the uproar now? The liberal left wasn't this mad when past presidents made key White House changes. Let's revisit them. Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing. Coolidge made his own renovations. FDR overhauled the West Wing. Truman gutted the whole White House. Look at these pictures. Nixon expanded a whole room for the press, and Ford installed an outdoor swimming pool. How dare they? But the left is mad at Trump building a ballroom. At the end of the day, the White House doesn't seem to care what the liberals in the media are actually saying.
We're putting up our own money with the government is paying for nothing. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound.
Administration after administration have publicly and privately spoken about the need for a larger event space. So while many presidents have privately dreamt about this, it's President Trump who is actually doing something about it.
Well, Ari, we just put up a few of the images. I'm also going to do this scroll. You can see all of the changes to the White House. 1902, building the West Wing. 1973, adding the bowling alley. The list goes on. We'll bring up some more pictures. But hey, who cares about the history? We just have Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats always look good in hysteria, don't they? Look, when I first saw the pictures, I do have to admit, it was a little jarring. To see destruction of an outside wall of the White House, my first reaction was, whoa. But then you think about it and you go, this is called progress. Anybody who's ever done a project, anybody who knows the history of the White House, the history of the Capitol, they just built a Capitol Visitor Center. Go back and take a look at the pictures of when they destroyed everything in front of the United States Capitol. Pedestrians couldn't walk there to build what's now a handsome visitor center. I predict to you that these Democrats who are criticizing the ballroom now, they can't wait to visit it. And so for all those former West Wing staffers who are now piping off, or members of Congress who say it's horrible, I challenge them. Never go to it. Once it's up and it's an accepted, beautiful, handsome, wonderful part of the White House that people look forward to and they brag, I got invited to the ballroom, don't go. Put your mouth or put your body where your mouth is and don't go.
Yeah, no, and as we noted, Emily, they'd have to get the 270 votes unless they're invited by President Trump. You know, we have these images on the wall we're putting up. I also want to pull up just these close-up shots. And it just shows through history, Emily. You know, you have 1902, that's the West Wing construction, 1934, West Wing expansion, the list goes on. These are pretty jarring images, to Ari's point, but they ended up creating a beautiful White House.
Yeah, by my count, over 14 presidents have made extensive major remodeling, including Hillary Clinton's husband, who moved the putting green closer to the Oval Office so he didn't have to walk as far after he enjoyed his cigars. I will say, too, that she was paramount in the renovation of the dining room. So it is so hypocritical for these people to now, as history apparently only began when President Trump entered the scene, to have an issue with him upgrading what is the people's house. And I note, too, that if anyone has an issue, why wouldn't it be, I would think, Nixon, who replaced the swimming pool with the press briefing room, or even Wilson, who was the one that replaced the Colonial Garden with the Rose Garden. It's not like President Trump is destroying history. What he's doing is upgrading and making improvements on what past presidents already upgraded and made improvements. I venture to say that if any of those critics were living in a house that maybe was built in 1952 or 1902, that they too would say, you know what, I'm going to redo the plumbing and I'm going to make this better for everyone. And the president talked about, too, the logistical snafus that I'm sure all the press is grateful for. Heels sinking in the grass and muddy suit pants and the like. It's like at a certain point, you have to sort of honor the purpose of, again, parts of the people's house to say, we're making it better and you're welcome.
Yeah, I loved yesterday when he described the press standing in the Rose Garden. He's like, they sink 5 or 6 inches down in the mud. It was hilarious. Molly, Emily mentioned Clinton, and I just want to remind viewers about all of the respect that Clinton had for the White House. Clinton okayed using Lincoln bedroom for contributors. CNN headline from 97. LA Times, Clintons began taking White House property a year ago, and then they returned $28,000 in White House furnishing. That's, of course, before we get to personal indiscretions, which we are too classy to put up.
Yeah, I was really wondering why Hillary was not thinking about her own history and the history of the staff when they took all of the silverware and they had to return it. It is true that you should respect this place, and I don't think she or her people really did that, notable indiscretions in particular. But I think it is a really good point that the White House is not as elegant as a lot of European residences, and that's cool because Americans are more, we don't revere our presidents as royalty or anything like that. But it's also true that the White House could totally use some improvements. So they're doing this on the East Wing, which will enable a bigger space. But Kaylee, you and Ari know better than anyone that the West Wing could also use some improvements. So I hope that if not Trump, then his successor also thinks about expanding that West Wing so that it can be have the space it needs to do the work that's important there.
Wait, you're talking about the flies that were the size of bats that used to fly around my press secretary office? Like maybe an exterminator first here.
Those were reporters.
Oh, yeah, that was Jim Acosta.
Very nice. Yeah. All right. Well, they are redoing the floors. I saw it recently. It looks amazing. That marble will just like blind you. It's so gleaming. It's great. Look, nobody's talking about in 1817 when they had to rebuild the whole White House after the British troops burned it to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, that was expensive. So I was looking at the money, and particularly the Rose Garden. And Jacqueline Kennedy is famous for spending the most money for cherished changes to it. She had a budget of $50 grand back then. That's $544,000 today, quickly spent on refurbishing the private quarters. So there is a lot going on in other presidencies, as you've shown with some of the pictures and all that. He's taking this, he says, out of his own pocket. Now, I don't see anything in history where people are writing their own checks. Maybe I missed that. Maybe they were. But nobody was talking about it. They didn't report on it. I'd be curious to know. And by the way, with the Clintons, did they write anything? Because I know their foundation was raising a lot of money. Oh, too soon?
Yeah, they took the $28,000 that they had to return, taxpayer dollars worth of furniture. Trump is self-funding this. He also has some private donors, but no taxpayer dollars. So I think what the liberals are trying to say is thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. We will help them with that.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.